Debaters and audiences to the grand finals of KYDC Elementary School Division. Before the debate, I congratulate both teams for coming this far, and I want to urge the audiences to please turn your cell phones into silence mode and do not move in and out of the debate chamber during speeches, and please do so between the speeches. And do not make any expressions or behaviors that can disturb or influence the debaters. So with that in mind, I would like to start the debate under the motion, assuming there is technology that can successfully erase people's memories, it is possible to allow people to use it to erase their own memories. My name is Jinwon Park. I'll be chairing this round, and these are very wonderful panels that we have for our tournament. So without any further ado, I would like to call upon the Prime Minister to open the government.
Mr. Madam Speaker, our team believes that erasing the own memories of an individual in the status quo gives the society a lot of benefits to the citizens and the society themselves. But on the other hand, not erasing their own memories, our team believes that this is bringing diverse harms to the society. Before I move on to our team's first and second argument, which is about the government's role, how this is effective towards eliminating trauma, I want to give you a 5-step policy that our team will provide to you throughout today's debate. So firstly, the government is going to tell the people about the pros and cons about erasing their own memories, which means that we're going to guarantee the people an informed choice. Secondly, we're going to get doctors, government, and the individual's consent when we're going to erase their own memories. And third, memories that will give a big impact towards society and memories that are valuable will be eliminated after investigation, for example, crime witnesses or whatnot. Fourthly, our team's fourth level of policy is that this technology will not be that costly that where people cannot use it at all. Now our team's fifth and last policy is that we're going to give legal regulations to only let the government and the doctors can use in the status quo. So now let me move on to our team's first argument, which is about the government's role. So I have two levels of analysis. Firstly, I want to tell you about the government's role in a principal level. Secondly, I want to tell you about the responsibility of the government when they will not provide this technology to the society. So firstly, Mr. Madam Speaker, our team believes that there is something called social contract existing in the status quo. When the citizens are giving the government tax, the government has the role to give them equal protection and to maximize the happiness of their citizens. Because the role says they're going to maximize happiness, our team believes that the government has the role to do everything to promote the roles in this case, maximizing happiness and providing equal protection. Our team believes that this will promote the roles even further, that I'll prove to in our team's second level analysis and our team's second arguments. So now let me move on to our team's second level of analysis, which is about the responsibility of the government when it doesn't provide the technology to the citizens. So Mr. Speaker, I already told you that the government has the role to give equal protection and to maximize the happiness of the citizens. So our team believes that when the government has the technology to fulfill this role, our team believes that the government has to do anything and provide the technology to the citizens when they already have the technology. On the other hand, when the government is not using this technology, this is a negligence towards their happiness and towards their emotions, which is leading to irresponsible actions and also towards the citizens, and also our team believes this goes against the social contract, which I've emphasized to you in our team's first level analysis. Secondly, I want to tell you about how this is very effective towards helping the trauma. I also have two levels of analysis. Firstly, I want to tell you the exclusive harms of trauma itself, and secondly, I want to tell you about the effectiveness of this motion. So, Mr. Madam Speaker's traumatization is a very frequent and thing that is very essential to one's life. People who went through sexual harassment, car accidents, or even heinous crimes, the traumas are earned from these memories get very much big traumas. For example, they cannot come to ride cars, they cannot face their opposing gender, or they will suffer depression or mental stress because of these traumas. Our team believes that because this trauma is exclusively harmful to any member of society. This is the first level analysis. Secondly, I want to tell you why erasing memories is effective towards eliminating trauma. Our team believes that trauma is directly related to memories because bad memories of the people causes traumatization. Our team believes that because erasing memories will eliminate bad memories of the people, which is the cause of traumatization. Our team believes that this will directly eliminate the traumas also. Our team believes because of these reasons, erasing memories is the most effective method and the most effective procedure to benefit all citizens who have trauma in the status quo. And our team believes that is the reason why erasing memories will be so effective on the way of helping these trauma. What have I told you so far, Mr. Madam Speaker? I have told you the reason why the government's role in principle is to fulfill their own role and the responsibility of the government case, opposition case when they do not provide technology to any of these citizens and the effectiveness of helping these trauma. For these reasons, we're very proud to propose today's motion. Thank you.
are getting chaos because there's a truth and there's something called lie. There's a chaos happening with that, and the society gets so many bad impacts from this. Even though this is a science fiction movie, this can also happen in our team proposition case. So I'm the leader of opposition for today's round. Under the motion, this house would allow people to use the technology to erase memories. I'll first introduce our team's principle and criteria. First, we believe that today's debate is about life, and we are going to first prove you why criminals can abuse the system, and secondly, why they can learn from their mistakes. And then, moving on to our counter policy for today's debate. First, as I told you that the traumas has a lot of problems, we will make a memory center, and we're going to do rehabilitation to feel relieved of their bad memories. Now, moving on to our rebuttal for their case. Now, they gave us a first argument, which is about government's role, and they talked about social contract and security. I think social contract. However, we will rebut to this point as the criminals can abuse the system by using that system and making the victims not think of that. I think strongly believes that it's government's role to censor this program and also create security in our world.
Sir?
No, thank you, sir. Now moving on to our second rebuttal for their argument, which is about trauma. As I told you in our counter policy, Mr. Madam Speaker, I think strongly believes that our counter policies. Yes, sir.
Our team had already told you in our policy that there will be legal regulations to only let the government and the doctor use this method.
I know, but there's still a chance that criminals will get this technology. There's still a chance, and if this ever goes into criminal time, this will cause extremely bad impact and mutual exclusive harms. They cannot never say that. They might never use that. So moving on to our first argument, which is about abusive systems. Let's say there's a guy called Timmy who harassed another person and uses technology to erase all of the memories of that victim. How will ever the police know who was the victor when all of the memory of victims are away? I think someone believes that if criminals get used to abuse the system, and also if there's a chance of getting hold of those technologies, I think someone believes that this gives a mutually exclusive harm to our society, in which we cannot handle it because the technology already given away. I think someone believes that there's no way to go back. Before starting my second argument, are there any people on the floor? Seeing that there's not, moving on to the second argument, first about learning mistakes. I think strongly believes that without learning from mistakes and doing our counter policy, they will never ever learn a moral lesson from their mistakes. Let's say that a person called A failed the test, and A person erased his memory just because it was so traumatic about the test, but he erased all the moral lessons and the speaking styles and the testing styles. How will this A person ever do a better test after erasing the memories? It's going on and on and on, and the list goes on and on and on, while our team proposition can never deal with, even though that A might do better tests. I think that believes that because there's no moral lessons of this test, we will have a bad impact on our society, giving out bad impact and making this person called A fail the test again, and this goes again in the other examples too. I think strongly believes that that's why our team propositions policy and their two arguments are failing in today's debate. For these reasons, I'm very proud to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader of Opposition. Speakers will for 4 minutes. Now I call upon the Deputy Prime Minister to review.
received various flaws in their case, so directly going on to our rebuttals. Their rebuttal and both their argument was about how these criminals can abuse this. I have several lines of response. First, we have already told you through our policy that we have legal regulations in which only the government and the doctors can use this. Second, even if we assume that these legal regulations are ineffective, and like they have said, they might even have a small chance of failing, we think that this is not a exclusive to our side because they have already said in their policy that through these medical and memorization centers, these people will feel relief of their pain and And we think that even if in their case these criminals get hold of that technology, we think that the harms that they have told us are not exclusive. So the second argument was about how these people will not learn from mistakes. Will not learn from their mistakes. Again, they clearly haven't been listening to our policy. We have already told you that because of the government's regulations and the fact that they also need the doctor's consent and both the government's consent, we think that these life problems that are talking about, for example, their example about how these people will erase their memories if they fail tests or whatnot, will not be able to stand. And second, we believe that there are numerous checks and balances in society, and for their example of tests or whatnot, there are parents and there are other people who will regulate the use of these. Will regulate the too much frequent use of these technologies through their check and balance and through societal pressure that will occur in our case. And we think that because of this, all of their harms are either not exclusive or are mitigated by our policy, as our honorable Prime Minister has already told you, Mr. and Madam Speakers. So going on to our team's third argument, which is about the black market. We think that the very fact that we are assuming feasibility and the very fact that these types of technology exist, but if the government does not use this technology, we think that other corporations, illegal corporations, will take advantage of this for their own profit. We see three harms coming from this. The first harm being that there are a lot of unprofessional people in these illegal corporations. We recognize that memories are important, and we recognize that memories are fundamental for one's own growth. And we think that through the black market, there are less professionals who are able to regulate and control this technology in the first place. We think that because of this, there are numerous side effects because all kinds of technologies can be ultimately insufficient, can be ultimately flawed. And the second harm coming from this is that there is too much accessibility. We're not saying that everybody will suddenly be able to access the black market, but the people who are related to the black market will use this technology even for tiny traumas. Their case is actually going to increase the harm that they have said themselves, in which there will be even less trial and error, and there will be a lot of harms coming from team opposition. Third, we see financial problems coming from this. We have already told you in our policy that we will make this accessible for the poor, for the government actually regulating the prices to the extent that these poor can access them. And we think that under their case, because these black markets are profit-seeking, first off, there will be a less percentage of people in society that will be able to access to this technology. And second, we believe that because the prices are high in the black market, the poor will actually be able to access this technology even less in their case. And for these reasons, the motion stands.
Here.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. Speakers for 4 minutes and 10 seconds. Now I invite the Deputy Leader of Opposition to conclude.
Now today, our side believes that when you legalize these and allow these systems, then you can erase your own memories by your own. We believe that major chaos will happen, and the belonging, the basic truth and basic life, the basic society and the basic laws, those kinds of things will all break down. Hello, I am the deputy leader of opposition here to prove that the statement that I made. And firstly, I'd like to rebut to their side's arguments. Firstly, they talked about the government school. However, we believe that it is not the government school to make people unbeneficial, to allow this for criminals to abuse, to make chaos. We believe that this is not the government school. Secondly, they talked about trauma, that trauma can happen. However, we believe that it is not. We believe that this kind of things are not true. Because we believe that their side never listened to our side's counter policy. We think that we will make a rehabilitation center that will help people who have bad memories, who have traumatic situations that are going on. So it's really, really serious. And this kind of serious situation can be dealt Okay, sir. No, thank you, sir. Now, if you have this kind of traumatic situation, can be really dealt well this kind of situations, not even using with those kind of memory systems. These memory systems these kind of benefits that they're talking about are not exclusive. We can also have set their benefits, and also, but however, they have only bring exclusive.
Sir.
No, thank you, sir. Now, I'd like to go into rebutting their side third argument, which is about the black market. They said that because illegal corporations might use this kind of system, then because of the black market, then because you don't need to stop the black market, you need to do from the government. However, we believe that this is the exact part. We believe that first thing, no, thank you, sir. Now, firstly, I would like to rebut their side for a two-layer analysis. Firstly, we believe that if there's an illegal market, black market, then we believe that the government will regulate it. And secondly, even if it goes against the government regulation and is safe, then we believe that if the criminal want to use it with the black market that goes against, yes.
How can you prove the effectiveness of your counter policy, which are memorization systems?
Now, we believe that the counter policy systems of our side, we believe that it is effectively dealing, and we believe that their side cannot also prove the effectiveness of their side memories. So we believe that they're not thinking of the harm of them too, and we believe that our side's rehabilitation centers will have really doctors and actually governmental people that that have really a lot of knowledge about this part. So we believe that they will do the job well, and we believe that their side's benefits that they're talking about is not exclusive. Now, I'd like to rebut their side's third argument in another layer of analysis. Now, another layer of analysis is that criminals will use these kinds of black market. Now, the black markets that go onto the government, then regulations, then the government regulation will cut the black market down. However, the black markets that don't get caught, we believe that since their side just proves that the black market exists, we believe that the criminals can use the black markets. Now, I'd like to go into our side's third argument, which is about chaos will happen. Now, if you use those kind of systems, even if you don't use the black market, we believe that major chaos will happen. Now, I'd like to explain why. Now, when the people all know that there is a system that you can memorize your memory. When you can erase your memory. Now, when you know there is a system that you memorize your memory, that you erase your memory, then we believe that there will be a lot of questions going on. Even if you didn't erase your memory, because you don't know if you erased or not your memory, then you think that did I erase my memory or not? But you can never know. And what's the situation going on? They can never remember about that. And did this thing actually happen or not? Even if this kind of thing never happened, we believe that they can believe that it happened because there is a possibility that it actually happened, and I just erased it from my memory because I don't want to remember it. So we believe that for these reasons, major chaos in the society will happen, and no one will be sure about what happened, and this will lead to no one believing each other, and the basic society will collapse. So for these reasons, I am very happy to oppose. Thank you.
이거 개인적인 동영상 촬영은 안 되거든요. 혹시 하셨다는 사실을 Thank you for giving me your opposition. The speaker spoke for 4 minutes and 23 seconds. Now I call upon the government whip to start her speech.
So, Mr. and Madam Speaker, before I go on to my 2 clashes, I would like to engage to the points that the previous speaker had made. Firstly, about our argument black markets. So they said that the government is going to find out about the legal markets. But firstly, our team believes that the characteristics of criminals, they actually use different measures to deny the fact of their crimes. So our team believes that the government wouldn't be able to actively regulate and investigate about these crimes. And also secondly, our team believes that the government wouldn't have an incentive to actively investigate the existence of black markets if we don't allow the people to use it to erase their own memories, because they think that no one would get access to these technologies, and they believe that the technology doesn't exist in the first place. And going on about their third argument, chaos,
Our team believes that this is not a direct harm. They didn't explain about the direct harm coming from the chaos. Our team believes that this is actually beneficial when we look at the long term because we could alleviate the trauma that gave harms in the long term to the individuals. So going on to my first clash. The first clash is about the principal justification of this motion. Our team had talked about various government roles, and their team had talked about how there's not going to be a process of trial and error, how the people wouldn't be able to learn moral lessons. Firstly, they never proved why learning a moral lesson is so important. They simply stated some possible harms coming from not learning a moral lesson. And also, our team believes that traumas are more important in this case because in terms of urgency, trial and error can always occur even when we delete the memories. For example, even when we delete the traumas of the people, there are numerous opportunities for these people to try other things, and our team believes that the harm coming from this is minor. And also, in the case of our team's policy is much more urgent because in the case of traumas, they give harms to the individual for a long term, and sometimes this gives trauma for the whole life. For example, Mr. and Madam Speaker, when a person was a victim of heinous crimes, they actually cannot, they actually cannot actively socialize for the rest of their life because they feel afraid about the consequences. So our team's harms are much more urgent. And also in terms of their counter policy, which they asked us to engage. Firstly, our team believes that their policy isn't effective as our team has stated. And if their team is if their team is already agreeing that traumas are bad and we have to fix it, our team believes that it is more good for them to use an effective way that our team had explained. And secondly, their counter policy is not just exclusive because our site could use rehabilitation centers and erase the own memories of the people at the same time. This gives more benefits. And thirdly, about the terms. Our team believes that the characteristic of criminals and victims, they have a very big trauma. Our team believes that rehabilitation centers wouldn't solve the problem. And also, there are rehabilitation centers in the status quo. The reason why we're trying to use these technology is because the rehabilitation centers weren't effective enough. So this is why you take the first clash. On to my second clash is about the practical benefit and harms. The government team had talked about the black market, and their team had talked about how criminals would abuse these kind of technology. So our team believes that they talked about how the government role doesn't state because the criminals would abuse the technology. However, our team believes that this is an adequate rebuttal because it doesn't mean that the government role doesn't simply exist simply because there are some possible harms. And also about the characteristic of criminals. Our team believes that they're assuming that the legal regulations and our policy isn't effective. They never engaged to this. And secondly, even when you assume that their legal regulations there would still be criminals. So our team believes that firstly the government can provide checks and balances because there would be the witnesses of the crimes, and the criminals, because there is a price of the technology, they wouldn't be able to erase every single memory of the witnesses. And also secondly, there are some punishments in the criminal justice system that could prevent these measures. And secondly, our team believes that this harm is not such exclusive to their side because criminals always tend to use a measure to eliminate the evidence of their crimes. Our team believes that this would always occur even when we don't use this policy. So which is more important, preventing abuse or the black markets? When we assume the best case when criminals will abuse the post, our team believes that black markets is much more important because the harms of black market would occur without the government even knowing that the harms exist. Our team believes that this is much more harmful, and this is why we take this debate home. I'm more than proud to propose.
Government Whip speakers spoke for 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Now I invite the opposition to the podium.
Next start. Before I go on to our winning points of this debate, I'll explain the flaws in the other team's argument. So they first said that even if there is a chaos, there will be a long-term benefit that the people can actually defeat trauma. However, we believe that if the memory losing happens, then nobody will be sure that what if this was true, what if this was wrong. So we believe that they cannot even remember anything was true and anything was wrong. So we believe that this will actually make them more confused and it will actually make chaos, and we believe that this is wrong. And even if it can actually lessen trauma, we believe that this chaos that happens is more harmful and more harmful to society. So secondly, they said that checks and balances can happen so that the people who do it will only erase harmful memories. However, we believe that these harmful memories are actually good for them because they can actually learn from these harmful memories to actually make it not happen again. And for the
Go on, sir.
we believe that this will be good for them. Yes.
What if the harmful memories extend to the point where they cannot socialize at all?
However, we believe that we will actually make a rehabilitation center, and also if we actually erase that memory, then we believe that they don't even know that this happens, so they can make a mistake just like this harmful memories, and it will create a bad cycle. So we believe that this will be not bad. And now I would like to answer 3 questions that was very important in this way. So whose side gives the safety of the citizens? They said that they will bring social contract so that everybody can be happy. However, we believe that even if the God regulates the memory loss use, we believe that there is a no. Oh wait. There is a possibility that it could happen. So and we believe that if it happens, the harms are so big, because the criminals can use it to actually make more crimes and make victims of them lose memories so that they don't even know that crime happened. So we believe that these harms are so big, so we believe that even if it can make everybody happy, we believe that this shouldn't happen. And also, now we'll go on to our second question. Whose side makes the lives of citizens better? So they said that they will lessen traumas so that the citizens can live a better place. However, we believe that we believe that citizens need to learn from these traumatic events, not just forget them and just do the mistakes again and again. We believe that these mistakes are for learning and for actually getting to know how they are going to actually go over them. So we believe that the makes the life of citizens better. And finally, the last question: whose side makes the better social impact? So they said that everyone can get less trauma, so that everybody can get a happy life. However, we believe that there will be chaos, so that no one knows what was real or not. So we believe that this will bring more harm to society, because everybody can trick anybody, so that this was real, this was not real. So we believe that this will make a more chaotic society and more harmful society. So because our side proves to you how all cares about the lives of citizens, and all cares about the safety of the citizens, and all gives a better social impact, I am very proud of them. Thank you.
For 3 minutes and 32 seconds.
Master.
Yeah, we can start.
The debate was really clear. Our side strongly believe that there was 3 main reasons why we win this debate. And I want to talk about this first reason, which is about the criteria. Our side have the clear 2 criteria, which is firstly, criminal can abuse proof that criminal can abuse those kind of system, and secondly, we can learn about those kind of mistakes. And there's criteria was not that clear, but we will just use the team stance, which is about the freedom and right to their criteria. But when we see our criteria, we prove really well, like criminal can abuse the kind of system, and also the peoples are learning, and when we erase, there are no learning. But when we see their side, their side don't engage those kind of points. Like firstly, they say it is freedom, but those kind of freedom make chaos to the society, and our side strongly believe that they don't prove the criteria well, and also in their criteria and in their case have really big really big logical hole. And let's talk about the second points about their sides. Firstly, I want to talk about the brief engagement of their sides. Firstly, they don't rebut our second argument, which is about the learning from mistakes, and they're saying about abuse of system and learning from mistakes is same. Our side strongly believe that they don't hear and misunderstand our side arguments, and they just say it is same. Our side strongly believe that they don't engage well. And secondly, I want to talk about the logical points, and they have really many logical holes. And like firstly, they're saying about like socialize and like freedom. But our side strongly believe that those kind of socialize and those kind of freedom make a social chaos, because actually we can't know if it's real or false. Our side strongly believe that who will sure with those kind of facts, and their side is just making the social chaos, not respecting those kind of freedom and social life. It is not true, and they're just making the social chaos. And let's talk about the two words. In their best words, really like their best words, they can just erase, and the freedom is respected. And when we see the reality, which is their worst case, and firstly, their side is like the movie become real, which is about the fighting with the real facts. And they just making those kind of chaos, because actually we can't know which is true and which is false. And our side struggling with it will be really bad harm and to their side. And when we see our side's worst case, which is really small, which is about this, it is a little bit stressful, but we can have a really good benefit, which is about the mental care about those kind of things, and they overcome those kind of stress, and they learning about mistakes. And because of those kind of reasons, I strongly believe that we win this debate.
Thank you, opposition reply. Now I call upon the government reply to end this debate.
So, Mr. Madam Speaker, because of the sake of time, let's straightly move on to the opposition's flaws that we're currently seeing within this debate. So, firstly, they did not clearly understand our policy because, for example, say that the tech is because we have already told you in our policy that the technology is accurate, and as stated in our policy, we are only deleting life changes, traumas in the first place. So we believe that the things that the LO has stated in their case does not stand. And their second flaw was that, Mr. Madam Speaker, so well you're judging the finals, which means that you are very qualified, and so we assume that you noticed the new contents that were introduced within their whip speech, like the so-called harms of chaos. So we believe that you should not buy this point in the first place because it was told in too late. And their third flaw was that in their world, we believe that the government is irresponsible because even though the government has access to the technology that might even be life-changing in a good way for the traumatized people, the government is being irresponsible in their case because they're not achieving their role of the government, which is doing what's best for their citizens. And also their fourth harm was that their counter policy doesn't work in the first place, which is about rehabilitation, because first of all, it is not exclusive, and secondly, they never proved to you and us why it is effective in the first place, and only talked about why it might occur. And so straightly moving on to answering the main question that was asked within the debate, which was basically about which outweigh one another, the benefits or the harms. So straightly moving on to the harms that were mentioned within the opposition's case. So their first harm was that trial and error and moral lessons does not occur. So I have two analyses to answer this. So firstly, we already told you in our policy that the very traumatizing experiences of abuse, accidents, and whatnot will only be erased. And secondly, even if it is true, we believe that this is not urgent in the first place because these people can experience trial and error again and again within their lasting lives. And the second harm that they mentioned, that it increases the amount of criminals. However, we believe that natural check and balance exists in the first place, and because society criticizes these criminals and retribution exists, and regulations will prevent this technology from getting in the hands of criminals in the first place. So what does our side mean by regulations? So in our side of the debate, the government will have strict regulations so that criminals cannot get this technology within their hands in the first place. So we believe that this point of increasing criminals does not stand. So, and lastly, moving on to the benefits, the strong benefits that our government side has told you in this debate. So firstly, the government efficiently and effectively achieve their goal in our case because they provide the max amount of happiness, because they can remove the traumatizing experiences that might even affect their lives over the long term and might not even let them become, might even deter them from becoming a productive member of society. And secondly, we believe that we benefit the traumatized citizens and help them achieve their goal in the future because they can live a normal life in the first place because they have less traumatization of the experience that they have experienced, which will help them, as our whip has told you, become a productive member of society. And because,
and because of the fact that they have less traumatization, for example, to talking to other people in the first place. So because of all of these moral benefits that I have told you, and because their harms don't exist in the first place in our case, we are more than happy to propose.
Thank you, Government Reply. Thank all the debaters for the wonderful debate. Stars can cross the floor, shake hands, and